When Donald Trump steps onto a political stage or walks into a crowded ballroom, he is almost always the tallest person in the room, except when he is standing next to his youngest son. At 6'9", Barron Trump physically dominates every space he enters. Yet despite that massive physical footprint, he maintains a near-zero public profile. He does not grant interviews, he avoids social media, he rarely speaks into a microphone. For years, the press and the public interpreted that silence as disinterest. The assumption was that the youngest Trump child was simply keeping his head down, entirely removed from the family's sprawling political and real estate machinery. Then the 2024 election cycle happened. At 18 years old, reports began surfacing that this quiet teenager was directing major campaign strategies and launching multi-million-dollar corporate ventures. The most shielded and isolated member of the family has stepped out of the background. To understand the family's current trajectory, we have to look at why a young man trained to disappear is now being credited as a primary influence. Barron's developmental years were heavily engineered to keep him separated from normal society. During his time at Oxbridge Academy in Florida, he attended classes under the pseudonym Jack. His presence required Secret Service protection, and the school staff were required to sign strict non-disclosure agreements. Even within those secure walls, he deliberately opted out of typical teenage life. Classmates noted that he never attended school dances, skipped the football games, and refused to eat lunch in the cafeteria, waiting until he returned home instead. His mother, Melania, heavily guarded his immediate environment. She raised him with a distinct European focus, ensuring he gained European Union citizenship and teaching him to speak fluent Slovenian, a language he frequently used to communicate privately with his grandparents. The few times he did venture into public activities, his choices broke the family mold. Instead of golf or tennis, he quietly joined the youth academy for the DC United professional soccer team, playing as a midfielder under the radar. Living inside this highly controlled bubble didn't tune him out of the world. It positioned him as an analytical outsider, someone watching the mechanics of fame, media, and wealth from a safe distance, taking careful notes on what worked and what didn't. Since 2015, the standard Trump campaign playbook relied heavily on massive physical rallies and continuous cable television coverage. But as the 2024 race accelerated, that legacy strategy completely failed to reach younger demographics who consume zero traditional media. Barron stepped in with a specific directive for his father: stop relying on CNN and Fox News and sit down directly with internet influencers. He began curating a list of unscripted, long-form podcasters popular in the digital manosphere. He orchestrating connections with internet figures like Aiden Ross and the Nelk Boys. He eventually secured an appearance on the most lucrative digital real estate in the entire world, the Joe Rogan Experience. We can see the result in the polling data. This bar chart compares turnout of men aged 18 to 29 between the 2020 and 2024 elections. The 2024 column peaks at 56. Decades of established political theory dictate that reaching new voters requires hundreds of millions of dollars in targeted advertising. Barron bypassed that entire industry by placing his father in front of a microphone with a few comedians and streamers. Following his graduation, Barron relocated to Manhattan, enrolling as a freshman at the highly competitive NYU Stern School of Business. People close to the family observe that while he shares his father's intense focus on acquiring wealth, his approach is different. He operates quietly, instead utilizing a restrained European sophistication rather than relying on loud, public brashness to make his deals. Before even stepping foot on the NYU campus, he was already building his own portfolio. He co-founded and served as a director for Solos Yerba Mate, a lifestyle beverage startup that successfully raised $1 million in private funding. Simultaneously, he began directing the family's capital into new markets. Internal project documents list the 18-year-old as for B5 visionary, responsible for launching World Liberty Financial, the family's new cryptocurrency venture. This diagram illustrates what he is pushing the family toward. On the left, the centralized hub of traditional banking and real estate. On the right, the decentralized node network of digital assets and DeFi. His focus is on establishing a digital footprint for the family's capital. By championing decentralized finance, he is positioning the brand to operate in digital markets that exist alongside their traditional real estate holdings. In both politics and finance, Barron is serving a singular, highly specialized function. He acts as the translator between his father's instincts and a digital world the older Trump does not live in. Donald Trump built his instincts in the 20th century. He understands tabloid newspapers, terrestrial television, and physical skyscrapers. The mechanics of the modern internet and youth culture are entirely foreign to him. Barron bridges that massive generational divide. He monitors the digital spaces that traditional political consultants and legacy financial advisors either ignore or fail to understand. And he translates those trends into actionable strategy for his father. It demonstrates a very specific rule of modern influence. The person standing in front of the camera holds the attention, but the person deciding where the camera should point holds the actual power. The legacy of the Trump brand is loud. It was constructed on towering glass buildings, golden escalators, and aggressive continuous media confrontation. The new blueprint being drafted by the youngest son relies on the exact opposite. It is built on decentralized digital networks, informal conversations on independent podcasts, and quiet, unpublicized networking. A generational pivot of this scale usually requires massive consulting firms and years of corporate restructuring. In this case, it is being directed from a freshman dorm room in downtown Manhattan. For a decade, the public and the press fixated on the family's most visible members, but the methods used to secure young voters and digital assets suggest that the newest member of the organization is following a very different strategy than the one that built the family's original fame.